Is Sunday a must-win for the Bengals against the Chiefs?
I'm going to tell you this. If the Bengals don't win, you can say goodbye to the Bengals season. And I got them not winning. They got to go into Kansas City. Joe Burrow, he a little iffy to me because people don't even talk about, since they've been to the Super Bowl, what have Joe Burrow done for me lately? Well, I'll tell you what he's done. Last year, he went 5-5. That don't sound like a very competitive team that's going to compete for a Super Bowl this year. And you know what? They're 0-1 this year. So do I have any confidence in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Higgins going into Kansas City trying to pull out a win? And I know Joe Burrow has played well against Mahomes in the past, but I just don't see it. I'm concerned. I don't think it happens.
I hesitate to say it's a must-win because they've started slow in the past and been able to climb out of it. But this is a different team. You don't want to start from behind. And it's definitely, you don't want to have a duplicate performance of week one. So even if I do think that the Bengals will lose this game, which I do think that they will, the hope of it is that it looks better than it did in week one because they looked inept in week one. So maybe it was a little bit of rust. Maybe it was Joe Burrow getting back comfortable. Maybe Jamar Chase wasn't 100%. Like all of those things could be a part of it. But you don't want to start from behind. And this wasn't the expected energy that you were thinking was going to be the case coming in with the Patriots week one and now going to Kansas City. So you were expecting to have some wiggle room, and they don't have it now. So is it a must-win for the Bengals against the Chiefs, Key?
I think it is. They've lost 2 in a row, including the playoffs to Kansas City, when they kind of, I don't want to say dominated Kansas City, but was in Kansas City's way, so to speak, prior to that. They had beaten them, then obviously they beat them in Arrowhead to go to the Super Bowl, which was some time ago, as Paul mentioned. We make it sound like it was yesterday when it was several years ago. But it is a must-win because if they lose this game, they become 0-2. I think Cleveland loses to Houston. Wait, no, Cleveland plays Jacksonville. They lose to Jacksonville, they're 0-2. I think Pittsburgh beats Denver. Yeah. That means that they're 2-0. The last thing that and I think the Ravens take care of Houston. So what you don't want to do... The Raiders. So what you don't want to do is wind up sitting at 0-2, 2 games behind Pittsburgh and a game behind the Ravens, although in a couple weeks you have to play the Ravens. You just don't want to put yourself in that situation. Going into Kansas City, obviously, going to be tough. You're going in with Jamar Chase, and as of now, no T. Higgins, no Joe Mixon in the backfield. It's just a different team.
A disgruntled Jamar Chase.
Well, I mean, he might not
He ain't got his money.
I don't know if he's disgruntled. He's still out there, because if I didn't have my money, I was disgruntled, I wouldn't be there. I'd be at home.
Yeah, I mean, you there,
He's flying west with them as soon as they get on the plane. It's just a different team going into Kansas City. This is not the same team that you used to beat, for those couple times. This is like a different offense. It's just different. And you're right, Joy, you cannot continue to find yourself behind the sticks because you can't figure out how to get a win, let alone beat the Kansas City Chiefs. In Kansas City, they looking to show you that they're for real and they own you now.
Yeah. Yeah, the Kansas City's not going to take the Bengals lightly just because they lost to the New England Patriots in week one. But to your point about them starting from behind, Cincinnati, they're looking to avoid going 0-2 for the 5th time in Zach Taylor's 6th season. During that time, they're combined 1-10 in the first 2 weeks of the season. That's the worst winning percentage in the NFL. Just to say that they start slow is not really contextualizing how badly they are at the beginning of the season. Now, they're a team that we take seriously because of Joe Burrow, because we've watched them go to the Super Bowl. But now they're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who will take them seriously. To your point, Key, they're going to want to try and prove a point. And it feels like the Bengals are a little bit wounded after watching how they performed in that game. But are you worried about Joe Burrow? Because he was seen holding his wrist. He was seen moving it around. He said that it's a ligament. You got to keep it loose. That's important. Yeah. So what are you worried about Joe Burrow?
No, I'm not, because I didn't see any balls floating. I didn't see non-zip on the ball thrown into the third row I didn't see any of that. They just did not play good. Some of it could be rust. Remember, and I know you're going to smack me, but remember this.
Violence.
Remember this. Teams don't play their players in the preseason.
Well, yeah. I mean,
because of that,
you guys are pushing me into a preseason individual.
No, but certain guys aren't going to look
caveats
a certain way because they have a lack of preparation. Even in training camp, Star players don't get reps like that in training camp. They're not going to rep me to death. I'm on the team. I'm one of the 53. You know what I'm saying? And so it's different than when me and your brother played, when we was getting dog cursed out there and we was having 3-a-days and hot heat and all. It's totally different. These dudes walking around in T-shirts and shorts. Yeah. You know, that's really what they doing.
It's such a fine line, though, Key, when you don't play in the preseason, but then you get to the season and there's little room for error because there's not that many games. Like, your season can be over within 30 days. Think about it. If you go 0-4, the season's pretty much over.
Well, depending on the division you're in, but yes.
Yeah. So it's mind-boggling to me that the preseason isn't taken seriously, or just, I mean, I understand you don't want players to get hurt and there's contracts that's going on and guys are getting in shape and all of those things, but it's just so much, there's no room for error is what I'm saying.
No.
Like we're talking about, if the Bengals go 0-2, they got 11% chance. And we're talking about because they're not sharp in the preseason.
If they go 0-2, I think they even a score at 2-2 because their next two opponents is the Washington Commanders and the Carolina Panthers. I'm just saying.
Well, I could see them, but you know. We said that about the Patriots to start the season. We expected them to go into Kansas City with a win.
Yeah, but we didn't see the Patriots. We didn't see them. I've seen Washington and I've seen Carolina.
Well, we have to see how the Bengals look against the Chiefs because I don't know if I'm necessarily just going to give them Washington. Carolina, I think I'm going to have to submit at this point. But that could be a really, really
And then they got the Giants after they play the Ravens. So, you know, the way I see they could be 3-3 by the time they get to Cleveland October 20th.
Yeah, but they could be behind by that point.
No, they could be.
And that's really what it is. Because if they're not going to beat the Chiefs, which I think very few people are going to be picking them at this point, not only are you behind in the division, depending on how this game goes, we really could be concerned about what you're going to look like as an offense with new pieces, with T. Higgins being out, with maybe Jamar's not 100%, maybe Burrow's not 100%. So to Paul's point, how much wiggle room do you have? You bring up the preseason. How do you feel about the preseason now? Because this is what's bothering me about this, I guess this excuse or this reasoning. You do have the preseason to get ready. I understand you don't want to get hurt, but if it's going to cost you being sharp during the regular season when the games count, don't you think that people should be mixing in a little more play in the preseason?
Not to the star players, I don't.
But then the star players aren't ready when the season starts.
No, but all of them, okay, Joe Mixon was ready.
Sure.
Okay, Saquon Barkley was ready.
Sure.
So there's some players that need it and some players that don't need it.
But if you're not sharp during the regular season, you do need it.
But if I'm coming off an injury, and I have a player coming off an injury that's a very important part of us, I can't afford the risk to put him out there and have something happen to him. Just as simple as throwing the football and hitting the back of a lineman's helmet on that particular wrist. You just can't. You just can't. You can't. I'm
just becoming pro preseason because can you afford to drop 2 games at the beginning of the season because you guys aren't prepared?
But you don't think that that's going to happen.
I mean, at this point, the Bengals should know it.
No, the coaches aren't going into it, Joy, saying we're going to lose. That's not, they don't go into it that way.
Yeah.
Because I can look at other quarterbacks that didn't have preseason and they look decent.
I guess there's no science to it, but it just seems like this year we're talking a lot about people not being ready for the regular season. And I'm like, but these games count.
Yeah.
And those stats count. And the other teams that are ready for the regular season, their games count too.
Yeah, but most of the teams I'm feeling like, as I look at the start of the season, the teams that are ready are mostly the teams that are probably going to be Super Bowl contenders. You know, that's the Chiefs and San Francisco.
Yeah.
And even though the Ravens lost, they look pretty good. They didn't look that bad.
It's all it is the teams that was in the mix a year ago.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
So I get it for those teams. But these other teams, like the Bengals, like last year, y'all didn't show me much. Like, y'all should be excited for training camp. Y'all should be excited to get back. Yeah, I understand Joe Burrow dealt with a wrist injury.
Nobody's excited for training camp, Paul.
I mean, that's your mentality, Key. You know?
Nobody's excited.
I was always excited for training camp. I couldn't wait.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.